Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for tuning into the Tarot Tips. The title of this week's installment is Tarot is Hilarious. And I really always appreciate when something humorous or a good pun or something that's pictorially very relevant and funny comes up on the table. Most times when we go to our tarot deck, we are in the midst of something that's challenging. And I've talked about emergency room tarot before, that it's useful to use your cards when things are going well, in addition to when you're having a crisis. But the point about today's installment in the Tarot Tips is that sometimes very amusing, clever, hilarious things can happen when you're working with the tarot cards. And so I'd like to show you a few examples of things that I've experienced that you might find amusing. The first example I want to share is this Nine of Wands and the Moon card. A couple of years ago, my daughter was having her first child, and she and her husband decided that they didn't want to know the sex of the child in advance. They wanted to be surprised at the birth with what we got. So, it gets to be toward the end of the pregnancy, and I found myself, which I normally don't do, intruding into my daughter's private life and wanting to know if I could get a handle or a sense about whether I was going to be a grandma to a boy or a girl. And so these first two cards come up, and I did laugh out loud because the Nine of Wands and the Moon card, first of all, are two cards that are very much related to the idea of pregnancy. The Nine of Wands being, first of all, 9 months that it takes for a pregnancy to reach its culmination. And also that if you've ever had a child, given birth to a child, let's say, you know that by the time that 9th month comes, you look and feel like that Nine of Wands card. So the Nine of Wands in general is a card of perseverance, but in this particular instance, it was saying to me, yeah, it's going to take 9 months. The Moon card is very much about the mystery of birth, whether it's a birth of consciousness or the birth of a physical being. It's very much about the mystery of life and the place where the soul resides. So to see the Nine of Wands and the Moon card really said to me, okay, Grammy, you're going to have to cool your jets and wait the 9 months like everybody else, because this is a mystery, and why don't you just appreciate it for what it is? So I had to laugh. We ended up with a granddaughter. The next card that I'd like to talk a little bit about is the Seven of Wands. And this card, in general, we could say, is a card of perseverance. It's a card of valor. It's a card of meeting struggles. It's sometimes a card of finding yourself having an inner or an outer conflict. And I often now cannot help but see this card and remember the time that I had a male querent who was asking about his vasectomy. And he felt like it was the right thing to do, but he just wanted some guiding cards or some further information about this impending procedure that he was going to have. And he draws the Seven of Wands. So it says two things to me, again, in sort of a humorous way. Seven of Wands saying, well, you're not really aligned with this. You're having some sort of conflict about this within yourself. But then I'm going to hold this card up closer. If you'll notice where those middle wands are aiming, they're really headed right toward the place where this procedure was going to occur. So I just found that hilarious. Maybe if I was a man, I would not have found that so hilarious. So Seven of Wands, conflict. And yeah, aiming right at his private parts. Okay, so the next thing that I can talk to you about in a way that made me laugh and made my client laugh was that the person was having a dilemma about going back to work. This was a person who was married, who had had a couple of children, and she really enjoyed being home. But she felt this duty because she had a lot of education. She was a very intelligent woman and was feeling like she was wasting essentially her education and her mind by being at home, even though she thoroughly enjoyed and was happy being home. So we get these two cards, and the surface meaning, I would say, would be with the Nine of Swords, don't worry about it, hang out and be at home and enjoy your life. But also the thing that came into my mind was the old Bobby McFerrin song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. The contrast between the very, very dark Nine of Swords against that very, very bright Four of Wands just seemed so pronounced that, you know, you could torment yourself over this decision, or you could relax and do the thing that makes you happy. So it just made me think with a little reggae beat, don't worry, be happy. The World card came up for me one time when I was debating and trying to decide about getting a new car. And there was a certain car that I wanted, that I had my eye on, that I was really seriously considering buying. But I don't make these decisions quickly. I like to keep my cars for a good 10 years, so I knew it was something I was going to have for a while. But when I pulled this card, I knew that my intuition about the car that I was wanting was correct, because the World card is ruled by the planet Saturn. And yes, I was looking at getting a Saturn. I still have my Saturn, actually. 2000 Saturn sedan. So the World card and its astrological association to that planet were confirming my idea and notion that, yeah, that would be a good card for me. And it certainly did turn out to be so. This last card that I'll talk about in terms of tarot being hilarious comes along with the notion that when you ask a silly question, sometimes you get a silly answer. And the card is the Fool card. Now, very often I'll ask something kind of knowing that it's a really ridiculous question. And when I get the Fool card in response to such a question, I know that in some ways, whatever is behind the tarot is kind of working with me or playing with me or saying, okay, Jeanne, if you're going to ask something like that, here's what we're going to tell you. For instance, a serious question, it isn't a serious question, but a real question that I did ask of the tarot one time was, when will the rock star Sting and I finally be together? Of course, it's a ridiculous question. And I got the Fool card. And made me laugh out loud. It's like, well, that's foolish girl. Come on, don't be ridiculous wasting our time addressing such a silly issue. But then if I wanted to look at it in terms of if there was a real answer to my silly question, the Fool card is the place of undividedness. The Fool is the place where all things are united, where there is no division between the physical and the spiritual, or the male and the female, or the night and the day, or the earthly and the ethereal. So I suppose that maybe the tarot was saying to me, yes, you will be together when we all are one, when we all are in that ethereal place of undividedness, let alone the fact that it was a silly question. So keep in mind that the tarot can be hilarious. The tarot can kind of not make fun of us, but remind us that things don't always have to be heavy and serious, and that the tarot does have a playful side. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.